Welcome back, guys, to another video of Patreon. I am going to be going over Hamon finishing and the whole Hamon process. So Hamon is a Japanese technique, very old. They used to put it on samurai swords, and they would do it so that the blade in battle would bend instead of break. It would give it more ductility. These days, for my purposes, I just do it for aesthetics. I think it looks cool. It's a nice finish. So that's what I'm going to be doing on this little knife, purely aesthetic. So it'll be like, it's going to be aggressive with fingers that go down into the blade. So the first thing we're going to do is do the rough grind on this blade. You remember I did this blade for another video. I did all hand forging on this blade. So we'll see how it goes when I finish it up. I'm going to leave some forging up top because it's a forged blade. I want to keep the forging on it. It's all straight, it's soft. So what I've done already is I have normalized it at 1600, then at 1500, then at 1475, then at 1425, and then I brought it down to 1250 and did a spheroidized annealing cycle. And all of that is just to relax the structure and make it more susceptible to surface hardening, which is what we want. We want it to be very easily surface hardened, which means that the edge is going to be the only thing that hardens. And you'll see a lot of like cool stuff going on in the middle of the blade, depending on how I do my clay. And I'm using Satanite for the clay. So the first thing I'm going to do is go rough grind this with a 36 grit and get the tang cleaned up and drill holes and get it all ready to quench. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. We're going to run over to the grinder, put the 36 grit on the flat platen, and get that bevel on there. what I want to make sure of is that there's no oil or grease on this blade. You can't have fingerprints or anything on there when you put your clay on, to a degree. I mean, obviously you don't have to be so particular about it, but it needs to be generally clean. You need to grind it with 36 grit so it has something to hold on to, and make sure it's grease free. So I'm going to go back to the grinder real quick, just clean it up, and then I'll be right back. So I've got that cleaned up and it's ready for clay. So I'm going to use this Satanite in this container here. It's still wet from the last time I used it. I'll draw little fingers down into the blade so that it has a cool design, kind of an aggressive design. Very simple, but aggressive. Okay, so that is really all you want to do. You don't want them going too far into the blade because then they'll sort of mess with your edge. You don't want it going into your handle because you want your handle to be hardened. So that is about what you want. And you don't want the body of the clay to come down too far because then it won't be cool looking. So let's go ahead and give this a try. We're going to quench at 1470 for this particular steel. We're going to quench at 1470, and we're going to quench in Parks 50. This is W2 from New Jersey Steel Band. Okay, so you can see I've got a really nice Hamon on there. It's ready to temper, so I'm going to temper it at about 375, 400 degrees. It's a smaller blade, so it doesn't need to be tempered that high. So it may be just 375 would be fine, but we'll see. Some things to remember when you do a Hamon like this. When you apply the clay, remember the grease. Degrease the blade. Make sure it's a cleanly ground blade, so there's no grease, no oil on it. Also, when you apply the clay, apply it when you're ready to put it into the oven. When the oven is up to temperature, that's when you can put the clay on. Because if you let it dry first, for whatever reason in my experience, it wants to pop off either in the oven or in the quench tank. So I usually put it on there, leave it somewhat wet, and I just put it right in the forge, right in the oven, and pull it out and quench it. You can do this in your forge as well, but you want to be careful. Make sure you know what the temperature is, otherwise you won't be able to make fine adjustments to your recipe and to your Hamon. So 1470 has been what's worked for me. Seems to have worked on this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tempered and ready to finish up. And that'll be the next few videos, getting the blade ground and cleaned up really nice so that you can see that nice high contrast Hamon. So that's it for today. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate you guys who are subscribing. I hope this is helpful. If you have any more questions that I didn't answer in the video, don't hesitate to ask. Have a good one.